Have you ever watched the leader walk into a boardroom or step up to a podium and they just instantly captivate everyone's attention before they even say a single word? It almost feels like magic, right? Well, today, we're diving into this explainer to unpack the framework from Mastering Executive Presence, a guide to leadership and influence, and we're going to figure out exactly how that magic actually works. We're going through the step-by-step playbook for commanding a room with true authority.
But first things first, let's just bust a huge myth right out of the gate. A lot of people assume executive presence is just, some innate genetic trait. You either have it or you don't. But the research paints a very different picture. The truth is, executive presence is a highly learnable skill set. The whole transformation actually begins entirely internally. You just have to genuinely believe that you can possess and exude it because ultimately, you literally cannot become what you don't believe you can achieve.
So how do we get there? Well, we've organized this explainer into 5 key stages. Number 1, the executive presence myth. 2, cultivating your inner core. 3, projecting poise and polish. 4, communicating with true authority. And finally, number 5, the art of collaborative influence.
All right, let's jump into section 1, the executive presence myth, inner versus outer components. We really need to look at the very foundation of what executive presence actually means, because it's completely misunderstood by most professionals.
The framework splits this whole concept into 2 distinct arenas. First, you have the inner components. So that's your mindset, your confidence, credibility, and emotional self-control. And second, you've got the outer components, your outward behaviors, communication, actions, and those crucial first impressions. It's a seamless blend. You can't just slap on a nice suit and fake the outer behaviors if your inner core is crumbling under the pressure. Developing strong executive presence absolutely requires mastering both.
Moving right along to section 2, cultivating your inner core, the internal game. Because let's face it, before you can influence anybody else in that room, you've got to master yourself. The absolute bedrock of this internal game is emotional regulation. Now, this doesn't mean acting like a robot. High performers, they absolutely feel emotions under pressure. But the key difference is they never let those impulses dictate their actions. They use a very specific mental pause formula. First, they notice the emotion. Second, they deliberately decide on a response. And third, they execute. Doing this signals deep psychological maturity. It makes everyone else in the room feel secure because they know you aren't going to just snap or crumble when things get tough.
The source material introduces this fascinating concept, and I love this, called silent magnetism. It completely challenges the outdated idea that you have to be the loudest person in the room to be heard. Real presence actually comes from cultivating invisible habits, things like fiercely protecting your focus and deliberately choosing your reactions. True attraction comes from groundedness. It's about operating from a place of unshakable self-assurance.
So how do you actually do this? The framework suggests physically activating your body's calming system, the parasympathetic nervous system, through deep diaphragmatic breathing. This simple act keeps you in a state of calm alertness. On the flip side, it strongly warns against reacting impulsively to hard bargainers. If someone comes at you with aggressive tactics or threats, whatever you do, don't mimic their style. Instead, act as a fly on the wall, take a breath, and maintain your emotional equilibrium.
Okay, section 3, projecting poise and polish, the physical game. Let's take that internal calm we just built and see how it physically translates when you project yourself into the room.
The framework highlights some specific mechanical adjustments for purposeful movement. For instance, standing with your feet shoulder-width apart and your knees slightly bent, that creates a centered, really stable base. Rolling your shoulders back isn't just about looking confident. It physically increases your lung capacity so you can speak clear. And whether in the boardroom or giving a keynote, maintaining direct, comfortable eye contact for about 5 seconds per person builds genuine connection, rather than just nervously staring at the back wall.
Creating a polished image is really all about exuding a natural confidence that silently assures your colleagues you fully grasp the context of the situation. Because here's the thing, your body transmits emotional data way faster than conscious thought, so the framework explicitly warns against unconsciously broadcasting anxiety through a collapsed posture, tense shoulders, or constant fidgeting.
Now we're on to section 4, communicating with true authority, the verbal game. Mindset, check. Posture, check. Now let's talk about the words coming out of your mouth.
It's kind of wild to discover, but the absolute most powerful communicators actually prioritize listening over speaking. This is called conversational leadership. It means you listen to truly understand your team, not just to formulate your next snappy reply. You give people your undivided attention, you ask thoughtful questions, and you make space for them. As a leader, making people feel genuinely heard and respected is literally one of the most authoritative things you can do.
And when you do speak, structure is everything. State your point, support it, provide direction, and then use strategic silence. Don't rush to fill quiet moments just because you feel anxious. Actually, let's use a strategic pause right here. Because talking too much simply signals insecurity and it dilutes your influence. Like the quote says, if you're over-explaining, your mind simply hasn't finished thinking yet.
So how do you prep for this? The guide suggests blending hard facts with compelling storytelling. That makes your ideas human and relatable. And practice out loud, standing up. But while you should absolutely prepare, there is a strict warning against reading word for word. Memorizing a script will only make you sound flat and robotic. You want to speak extemporaneously, from the heart, which lets you actually adapt to your audience. And of course, try your best to completely remove weak filler words from your vocabulary.
Finally, let's jump into Section 5, the art of collaborative influence, the interactive game. This is where we apply everything we've learned to high-stakes negotiations and the overarching reputation you leave behind.
The source material strongly argues that we need to totally abandon the idea of zero-sum haggling, the whole belief that for you to win, somebody else has to lose. Instead of a battle of stubborn willpower, the goal shifts to collaborative problem-solving. When a counterpart makes a hard demand, don't just instantly react with a counter-demand. Dig deeper, ask why, uncover the real fears, the needs, and the goals driving their request. The strategy here is to expand the pie, not just divide it.
This leads right into a structured, three-step approach they call the circle of value. First, work together to brainstorm multiple options before evaluating any of them. Second, rely on objective standards, things like market data or industry precedents, to determine what's actually fair. This is crucial because it grounds the conversation in defensible logic rather than just ego. And third, keep relationship issues entirely separate from the substantive deal terms. Address the relationship issues head-on, sure, but protect the deal terms so you never have to make arbitrary concessions just to save a friendship.
A true executive creates an environment of shared ownership, and they do this by using inclusive language, words like we, our, and together. You also really want to focus on crafting yesable propositions. Think about it. How much easier is it to get agreement when you craft a proposal that directly addresses their specific fears and perceived negative consequences? You want to focus on mutual advantage rather than manipulating others for personal gain.
Everything we've covered today really culminates in one profound truth. Your reputation precedes you. Honestly, never underestimate this. A track record of integrity, excellence, and consistency does so much of the heavy lifting before you even open your mouth to speak. If you build this consistency over time, your presence is going to command respect automatically.
So how do you lock in that stellar reputation? By shifting your core mentality. True charisma isn't about bragging, it is essentially checking your ego right at the door. You have to shift from walking into a room thinking, here I am, to thinking, ah, there you are. It's about validating others publicly, sharing the limelight, and actively investing in the success of the people around you. A truly confident executive helps other people win.
I want to leave you with this thought as we wrap up this explainer. Look at the people around you in your very next meeting. If you truly want to master executive presence, you have to ask yourself, are you making it all about yourself, or are you making it about them? Master your inner core, stand with poise, speak with purpose, and put your focus entirely on empowering the room. That is true executive presence.